Breaking news! What if I told you the Ravens just made NFL history in the worst way possible? A 277-0 record was shattered, and Baltimore was on the receiving end of it. A collapse so brutal, so frustrating, it left fans screaming for heads to roll, questioning everything from the coaching staff to the very identity of this team. You may think you know what happened, but trust me, the story goes much deeper than just a fourth quarter collapse. But before we break it down, be sure to like this if you're a true Ravens fan. It's always amazing to see fans of all ages cheering for this team. And if you feel like it, comment, "Go, Ravens!" Let's see who's still with the crowd. First off, we need to address the biggest elephant in the room, John Harbaugh. The calls to fire him erupted across social media as if fans were just waiting for the right moment to unleash the frustration. And after blowing yet another double-digit fourth-quarter lead, it's hard to blame them. You can feel it, the déjà vu, the same helpless sensation of watching this team collapse when the pressure is at its highest. That's that. Teams scoring 40 or more points and rushing for 235-plus yards were 277-0 in NFL history. After Sunday night, it's now 277-1. The lone exception? Your Baltimore Ravens. Now, is firing Harbaugh the answer? Probably not. But is the frustration valid? Absolutely. He's the common thread in too many heartbreaks over the years. Yes, he didn't fumble the ball. He didn't get burned on a crucial corner route. He didn't whiff on Josh Allen pressure. But he also didn't stop it. He had the chance to override that baffling Zay Flowers jet sweep on 2nd and 9 during the final drive, and he didn't. That's on him. As head coach, his fingerprints are on every decision. He may not be the sole culprit, but his hands aren't clean either. Then there's Derrick Henry, and this one hurts. Because for most of the game, Henry was the heartbeat of the offense. 18 carries, 169 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was dominant. He was vintage. Until the moment that changed everything. The fumble. And just like that, what could have been remembered as a career-defining performance instead became the turning point in a crushing defeat. But let's be real. Henry wasn't the reason the Ravens lost. He was the reason they were in that game at all. Blaming him for the loss is like blaming the rain for getting wet after you ran outside without an umbrella. He did his job, and then some. It was a team-wide collapse. And speaking of collapses, let's talk about the secondary. More specifically, Jaire Alexander. The cornerback's Ravens debut ended in embarrassment. Pass interference. Toasted on a corner route, giving up a 15-yard first down on the next play. It was ugly. There's no spinning it. On Sunday night, Jaire didn't look like a shutdown corner. He looked like a liability. It's an overreaction to say cut him now, sure, but if he's hurt, and that's the reason for his performance, then he shouldn't be on the field. Period. Not until he's 100%. Because if that's what we're getting, he's not just not helping, he's hurting the team. And maybe that's the scariest part, that this feels familiar. That old haunting phrase, same old Ravens. Blown leads, missed opportunities, painful what-ifs. It's starting to feel less like bad luck and more like identity. And if that doesn't get fixed, no amount of talent is going to save this season. Because here's the thing, this isn't just about a 1-point loss in week 1. This is about trust. Trust in the coaching. Trust in the leadership. Trust that when the lights are the brightest, this team won't collapse under pressure. And after Sunday night, that trust is shaky at best. Let's dig deeper. When you build a 15-point lead in the fourth quarter, you're not supposed to lose. Not at this level. Not with the talent Baltimore has. That collapse wasn't just a bad break. It was a pattern. And the problem with patterns is that they start to define your identity. For years now, we've seen the Ravens find new and painful ways to give games away. Whether it was the infamous collapse against the Dolphins, the heartbreakers against the Steelers, or now, this meltdown against the Bills, it's starting to feel like part of the DNA. That's not an overreaction. That's a reality check. And when you zoom out, you see the real concern. It's not about how the Ravens play when things are going right. It's how they respond when momentum shifts, when mistakes start to pile up. This team, historically, hasn't handled that well. And Sunday night was the latest proof. Now let's talk leadership on the field. Lamar Jackson. He wasn't bad, but he wasn't dominant either. He managed the game well, he made some plays, but in the fourth quarter, when it felt like the air was being sucked out of the stadium, he didn't take control. That's something this team still needs from him. He's got the talent, the athleticism, and the locker room, but what the Ravens need now is a quarterback who grabs the moment and refuses to let it go. That's the next step. That's what separates MVPs from Super Bowl winners. And that takes us to the defense, because it was exposed. Not just physically, but mentally. The coverage lapses weren't just technique failures. There were signs of a unit that loses composure when the game is on the line. Josh Allen had way too much time. The pass rush disappeared when it mattered most. And for a defense that was supposed to take a leap forward this year, that's a red flag. We also can't ignore the coordinator decisions. Mike Macdonald is entering a pivotal year. He's already on the radar for head coaching jobs. But nights like this raise big questions. Where were the adjustments? Where was the creativity? You're facing one of the most dynamic QBs in the league, and when the game turned into a track meet, it looked like the Ravens just hoped Allen would make a mistake. He didn't, and neither did offensive coordinator Ken Dorsey. You got outcoached. Period. Now, back to Derrick Henry, because it's impossible to tell the story of this game without mentioning him again. The fumble was brutal, no doubt, but let's not lose sight of what he did before that. Every big run, every bruising carry, every moment where it felt like Baltimore was in control, that was Derrick Henry. And it's no exaggeration to say that if the Ravens win that game, the headline isn't about Harbaugh or the defense, it's about Henry's revival. One mistake doesn't erase all of that. And if the team abandons him now or starts second-guessing his role, that would be an even bigger mistake. Still, fumble or not, that moment, the turnover, it shifted everything. The offense went into panic mode. The defense looked shell-shocked. And the Ravens looked like a team that's been here too many times before and still hasn't figured out how to finish. And yet, there's hope. Because you saw flashes. You saw what this team can be. You saw Henry's explosiveness. Zay's shiftiness. You saw stretches where the offensive line looked dominant. Where the defense looked fast and mean. You saw what the ceiling looks like. The question now isn't about talent. It's about grit. Can this team learn to close? Can it develop the killer instinct that separates contenders from pretenders? Because it's not about playing great football for 3 quarters. It's about finishing. About stomping on throats when you're ahead. About refusing to let a win slip away. That's what championship teams do. The Ravens have everything they need, on paper. They've got the weapons, the coaching staff, the veteran leadership, the quarterback. But now it's get check time. You're 0-1. You've just given away a game that 277 teams before you managed to win. You're about to face a hungry Cleveland Browns team at home. The pressure is already mounting. So I'll leave you with this. If the Ravens blow it again next week, if they go 0-2 and lose another game in heartbreaking fashion, what then? What does that say about this team's mentality? What does that say about the Harbaugh era? Because this season might not be just about wins and losses. It might be about legacy. Comment below what you think the Ravens need to do this week to bounce back. And don't forget, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and check out the videos on screen for more deep dives into Ravens football. This season is just getting started. Let's ride. Because here's the hard truth. If this team doesn't address the real issues now, this season could spiral out of control faster than anyone expects. We're talking about a roster loaded with talent, a veteran head coach with a Super Bowl ring, and a fan base that's waited over a decade for another serious run at the title. And yet, here we are again, dissecting another loss that feels all too familiar. That's not just bad luck, that's a culture problem. And cultures don't change unless something forces them to. That's what this next week represents. It's not just about beating the Browns. It's about showing the fan base and the rest of the league that this team can respond. That it can take a punch and hit back. That it won't let one emotional loss turn into 2, then 3, and then a season full of what-ifs. There's urgency now. Real, pressing urgency. And it's not just on the players. John Harbaugh has to coach like he's on notice. Mike Macdonald has to prove his scheme can adapt under pressure. Lamar Jackson has to lead, not just with his play, but with his presence. And leaders like Roquan Smith, Mark Andrews, and yes, even Derrick Henry, need to set the tone from the locker room out to the field. The margin for error is gone. The standard has to rise. Because one more collapse like Sunday night? And the noise, from fans, from media, even from inside that building, is only going to get louder. So here's what I want to know as we close this out. Do you still believe? Not in potential. Not in stats. But in this team. In its ability to grow from this. To learn. To get angry. To respond. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Are you still riding with this squad, or has the trust finally been broken? And if you're not already subscribed, make sure you hit that button right now so you don't miss the next update. Like this video if you're staying loyal through the highs and the lows. And as always, check out the next video on your screen, because this season, it's far from over.